Long before Europe had kings, borders, or nations, there were stories. Stories whispered in smoke-filled halls, carried across the sea by sailors, and murmured by frightened villagers when night fell too fast. Among those ancient tales, one creature stands above the rest, a figure wrapped in darkness, loneliness, and pure violence. They called him Grendel. But the question we still ask today is simple. Was Grendel truly a monster, or a reflection of something far more human? To uncover the truth, we travel back over 1,000 years, into an age where fear was not a concept, it was a daily reality. A world where forests were endless, the night sky had no friendly glow of cities, and every shadow could be hiding something alive, hungry, and watching. Darkness wasn't just the absence of light, it was the presence of the unknown. And in the far north, in the wetlands of ancient Denmark, that unknown took the shape of a killer. At the center of this world stood Heorot, a magnificent mead hall built by King Hrothgar. Heorot wasn't just a building, it was a symbol of civilization itself, a golden hall meant to push back the darkness. Inside, warriors drank, feasted, and celebrated victories deep into the night. But the louder the celebration grew, the more it echoed into the wild lands beyond, and the more it reached the ears of something that didn't belong. The poem tells us Grendel was descended from Cain, the biblical figure who committed the first murder. In the medieval mind, this meant Grendel wasn't just a monster. He was cursed, marked by God, doomed to wander alone. But behind this religious symbolism lies something psychological. Grendel wasn't part of the world of men. He was an outsider, a creature who watched joy from the edges of the firelight. Imagine that loneliness, hearing music every night from a hall filled with laughter, a place you can never enter. Imagine being close enough to touch humanity, but forever excluded from it. Whether Grendel was a beast, a mutated human, or something else entirely, one thing is certain. He hated the sound of human joy. And so, driven by rage, hunger, or heartbreak, he attacked. For 12 long years, the monster came again and again. He broke down the doors of Heorot. He tore warriors apart. He dragged bodies into the marshes where no one dared to follow. Each morning the survivors found only blood-soaked boards and silence. Hrothgar's kingdom began to wither. Fear became a daily companion.
Noni.
No one knew when Grendel would return. Only that he would. And this is where story begins to shift. Not because fate changed, but because desperation traveled farther than fear. Across the sea, in the land of the Geats, stories of the monster reached a young warrior named Beowulf. He was strong ambitious and untested, the kind of man who felt destiny calling him loudly. But the truth we often overlook is this: Beowulf didn't come only to fight a monster. He came to confront the unknown, to test the limits of what a human could do. When Beowulf sailed to Denmark, people expected him to bring swords, shields, and armor forged from steel. But instead, he arrived with a disturbing declaration. He would face Grendel unarmed, no blade, no mail, nothing, because Grendel used none. To Beowulf, this wasn't a battle, it was a statement. If the monster represented fear, then Beowulf would meet fear with nothing but the human body and human will. The night before the battle, the hall was filled with tension. Some warriors doubted Beowulf, some admired him, some whispered prayers. Even Hrothgar, old and wise, looked at the young warrior with a mix of hope and dread. Because if Beowulf failed, it wouldn't just mean death. It would mean that humanity truly had no answer to the darkness beyond the walls. Outside, the marshland stirred, the winds howled, the moon cast pale light over the water, and somewhere in that endless stretch of wetlands, Grendel heard the sound of men gathering, waiting, preparing. He felt the same rage that had driven him for 12 years, the same pain, the same hatred of human voices, and he began to walk toward the hall. Inside Heorot, the warriors lay pretending to sleep. The torches flickered, stretching shadows across the wooden beams. Beowulf lay still, eyes half open, every sense focused. He knew the monster would come. He knew it would be violent. But he didn't know what he truly feared most, the creature or the possibility that the stories about Grendel were not exaggerated at all. The first sign was a vibration, a deep, rhythmic thud. Then another. The doorposts trembled, dogs outside whimpered and backed away. And then the Grendel appeared. Massive, misshapen, a shape that didn't match the human body. Skin like rough, wet stone. Fingers elongated into claws. Eyes burning with a strange, painful intelligence. Not mindless, not stupid, but angry, broken, alone. The monster moved almost silently for something so large. He stepped over sleeping warriors and snatched up the first man he could reach. The warrior didn't even scream before Grendel tore him apart. Blood splattered the wooden floor, and as the creature reached for his next victim, a hand closed around his own. Beowulf's grip clamped down like iron. Grendel tried to pull away, but couldn't. For the first time in years, perhaps the first time ever, the monster met someone who could match his strength. His arm muscles shifted beneath his skin. His claws dug into the wood. But Beowulf did not let go. What followed wasn't a battle. It was an earthquake. The hall shook, the benches splintered, warriors rolled away to avoid being crushed. Grendel roared, not like a mindless animal, but like something in agony, something that hadn't felt pain in a long time. Beowulf tightened his grip, refusing to break, refusing to surrender, refusing to be afraid. The struggle became so violent that the walls of Heorot cracked. Sparks danced from the torches, the roof nearly collapsed, and still Beowulf held on. Finally, with a final surge of strength, he twisted, and Grendel's arm tore free. The monster screamed, a sound filled with both fury and shock. And then Grendel fled, bleeding, stumbling, disappearing into the darkness of the marshes where he had always belonged.
At sunrise, the Danes gathered outside, following the trail of blood. They found Grendel's tracks, but not Grendel. Only the knowledge that the creature would not return. They came back to the hall and stared at the trophy hanging from the rafters, the severed arm of the monster who had ruled their nightmares. The celebrations that followed were thunderous. Beowulf became a hero in a single night, the man who defeated the darkness with his bare hands. But beneath the cheers, beneath the release, beneath the joy, something else lingered. Something heavy. Something no one wanted to say aloud. Grendel wasn't alone. Because deep beneath a haunted lake, in a cave carved by shadows and silence, a mother was listening. A mother who had lost her only child. And what rises from grief is often more terrifying than what rises from anger. Grendel was not the real monster. He was only the beginning.